Hello and welcome to Property Matters. I'm Stephen Galpin, and in today's show we're going to be looking at the rental market. Now, to my mind, not a lot's changed in the rental market over the recent years. We have the big portals, we have agents fighting for instructions, and we have tenants chasing around looking for properties. Today's guest is Anthony Kyriacou, CEO of Krispy House, and Anthony's devised a new platform for, I think, merging the tenants with the landlords, with the agents, getting it all together on a digital platform, making life an awful lot easier. So, Anthony, welcome to you.
Thanks for having me back.
Good. Now, before we start, I've got to say, Krispy House, that's an unusual name. So where did that come from?
Yeah, it definitely is. We try to blend something between being quirky and slightly memorable. Now, my experience is directly related to the letting sector. I started my own business in 2012, but prior to that, I was out on a viewing with a colleague of mine, and we were looking for a property, and it was called Krispy House. We kind of merged the two names together, Krispy House. It was a bit of a running joke at the time. And then I thought, it's quirky, memorable, and when it came to creating the brand, I thought, it made total sense to give it a go, and that's where it comes from.
That makes good sense, and it certainly is memorable, isn't it? I quite like that. That's very good.
Thank you.
Now look, Anthony, problems in the rental sector have been getting worse over the last couple of years. One is a lot of tenants chasing very few properties. We've gone through all the fuss and palaver about this rental reform bill, which in the end never even got through Parliament.
Yeah.
I am totally confused as what's left and what isn't left of that legislation. I understand that in practice none of it has gone through. So this dismissal of Section 21 notices, pets being, must be okay in a lease. None of it's happened, has it? How's this affected the agents that are involved in this?
Yeah, I think it has been a bit of a minefield over the past couple of years, and the pending, let's consider it like that, legislation change for the Renters Reform Bill. I think now that has been binned to a large extent. I mean, a new government may try to introduce it or certain elements of it. But I think it definitely has given the industry some breathing space. I think the sector was slightly concerned as to the ramifications if the legislation was to come into force. But I think at the moment it's kind of business as usual for the sector, for most agencies, focusing on the busy period coming in at the moment, and really just kind of considering how they're keeping their business operations in play.
Now, look, again, this shortage of rental properties, coupled with escalating prices, of course, high rentals, what's actually caused this? Because it only seems to be in the last 2 or 3 years that it's become really exaggerated. What was the trigger for this?
Well, it's difficult to kind of substantiate one particular factor. I think you could look at multiple elements to it. Increase in population, especially for a growing population of younger people now moving into private rental sector. I think COVID slightly had an element to play in it as well. We could also consider the loss of housing stock. I think there hasn't been a huge increase in numbers of properties coming on to the market. So I think there's been multiple factors as to why demand is extremely high, but supply is still kind of at a level kind of playing field.
I mean, we've had for the last few years now a government who've almost demonised the small landlord, inflicted new sort of tax regimes there, made it very difficult for legislation around the rental markets. There's no control, there's no control over standards or anything like that. So, as I say, we've had a government that's not been very helpful to the industry, certainly at the lower end of the market. What do you think the government need to do to sort of perk this up, to get things under control?
Well, I think firstly they need to install some sense of confidence back into the market. I think some changes which were introduced several years ago, tax changes, caused a slight exodus of private landlords from the sector. But yeah, I think installing confidence back into the market is definitely the key thing to do. Introducing measures which would penalise the private landlord certainly isn't going to help.
No.
We need a balance here, really. I think what we want to have is a complementary government that sees that the private landlords really are the kind of life support mechanism for the industry itself.
I've really never understood this government ethos, because actually, if you've got a healthy, bubbling market, landlords wanting to invest, tenants wanting to rent, that's a recipe for a good business. Both sides are winners, but they just seem to have done almost everything they can to discourage the smaller investor and switch it all to institutional landlords. And that, to my mind, isn't too clever, because if we look at rental standards of property, then actually it's turning out that the housing associations and people like that are the worst offenders when it comes to standards. So I just don't know how we cope with this. I really don't. I just hope that if any new government comes in, they take a more sort of level-handed sort of approach to it all, really. But anyway, moving on to the reasons for this shortage and perhaps some of the remedies. The big property portals have been offering rental properties as they would in sales, but it always occurs to me that the rental market is fast. If you're an agent and you have a rental department in your agency office, it's because the income is instant, the acceptance of the property is instant, and the start of the tenancy is days, not 6 months away like in a sale. So you've got a instant cash flow to your business. So it should work. But the big property portals really aren't doing a lot. And really, if you go through a portal and go on these searches, chances are the property's gone before you've even got to the street. So tell me, is that one of the major sort of drivers, if you like, for the platform that you've created?
Yeah, essentially the main kind of driver for the evolution, let's say, or the creation of crispyhouse.com has been entirely down to the user experience. Now, we wanted to offer something which was much more fast-paced, much more streamlined, much more intuitive to our target audience. We kind of refer to them as the WhatsApp generation, essentially. Yeah. It's a very, very strong medium of communication, which most agents seem to be working on. So we introduced that. So every inquiry that occurs through our platform is generated into an instant chat, WhatsApp-style communication between the user and the advertiser. The advertiser mostly being the agent. So it's a centralized communication platform within our portal, whereas our competitors, they don't offer anything which is centralized at all. It's all reliant on agents themselves being on top of the inquiries and making sure they categorize where they're coming from, etc.
And do you take on landlords directly as well as agents, or is it exclusively for agents?
Yeah, so that's one of the main USPs to our platform, essentially, that we're an all-encompassing property portal. The portal itself was created for agents in order to provide better value, but we are open to private landlords coming onto the platform as well. Our competitors don't allow that. We see the benefits of having private landlords on the portal. We want to create an ecosystem where agents, private landlords are advertising in the same arena, and there will be benefits alongside that we will introduce in the future.
Okay. Well, in part 2 of the show, we'll come to how your platform actually works. But before we do that, are you getting a resistance from the established platforms?
Not as yet, no. We are having a fantastic reception from our customer base, being the agents themselves. They want to see some change. They want to see a portal which offers better value. Now, we're not here just to be providing inquiries from the tenants to the agents. We're also looking at other tools that we can introduce, which we have introduced, which can help the agents themselves build on essentially what they need, and that's stock. So we've got some very, very innovative tools within our platform that agents are using on a daily basis, and the feedback is that it's fantastic. So we're covering both aspects of the industry, and that's providing good quality inquiries to the agents and the advertisers and helping them build on their stock.
Okay, and get more instructions.
Absolutely, that's it.
Yeah, very good. Well, that's on that amazing note of optimism and success. We're going to go to a break now. So join me after the break, and I'll be asking Anthony more about his platform and how it operates and what it's saving. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Property Matters. I'm sitting here with Anthony Kyriacou of Krispy House. Welcome back. Anthony, let's go into the logistics of how your platform works and how it might help an agent interact between landlords and tenant. Because I think that's the overall objective, isn't it? To have a sort of seamless contact, as it were. And it seems to me something a little bit more personal than the bigger portals are offering, actually. Very quick method of communication. So if you want to describe the ethos behind the platform, then...
Yeah, sure. Just to clarify, so the portal offers advertising space for agents, landlords, and also individuals who also may be a tenant in a property and have a spare room that they want to advertise. So we give multiple channels of advertising space on the platform. But yes, just to clarify, the method of communication is what we call instant communication, that WhatsApp style kind of functionality.
And is that the platform that you operate on, WhatsApp?
No. So we only use the term just so it can kind of be understood in terms of the speed, the functionality that we offer. So all the communication which occurs within the platform, all the technology has been created by us. We keep it all in-house. It's all under one effectively all-encompassing CRM. So that to give you a particular user journey, if a user, let's say a prospective tenant, was on the website looking for a property, they would see something that they liked, they would send a message, an inquiry to the advertiser. Now that would go through as an instant chat. It would create an instant chat between the user themselves and the advertiser, and quite often it would be an instant communication back and forth between the two parties, asking questions such as profile of the individual, making sure their affordability is suitable for the property that they're inquiring for, and then ultimately at some point they'll be setting up a viewing, and hopefully.
Okay, so does the applicant, the person looking for a property to rent, do they have to register with you individually, and do they get fed a certain amount of information automatically, or?
Yeah, so in order to make an inquiry, you have to fill out a 1-minute application form, and it is equivalent to how a tenant would make an inquiry on some of our competitor platforms. So you'd put the basic information as your name, phone number, email address, but with a lot of the platforms and ours, you can sign up instantly via some of the large portals such as Google, Facebook, and Apple registration. So it's all instantaneous. And
ease of entry, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we're saying that 80% of our users who sign up to the platform use those mediums. So registration is pretty much instant. Yes, we see the value in having users register, because then what we offer thereafter is an alert mechanism for any new properties which come onto the market that match their criteria. So they'll be kept up to date regularly of new properties coming onto the market.
Well, that must be invaluable for the agents in the middle, mustn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's keeping constant communication between the two parties. And what we also offer that our competitors don't offer is a profile of the user who's making the inquiry. We ask them questions such as their household income, when they're looking to move, the areas, to understand the suitability for the agent or the advertiser, to make sure that the key points of information that they provide when making the inquiry is suitable for the agent advertiser or for the property itself.
Okay, and I suppose the ultimate view is if the landlords start insisting that their agent uses your service. I suppose that's the ultimate game, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a key endorsement of the product. And again, as I mentioned, we're creating a shared platform for agents and landlords. We see a true benefit in that, and we will be adding some technology very, very soon to kind of assist both sides of those advertisers.
Well, and again, your notification service seems to be very good, because that will save somebody trekking around London looking for properties that have already gone, because you don't know how long they've been on the portal, do you? And,
Absolutely.
On the standards. I mean, that must be so frustrating. You know, young people trying to find a new home and then having to visit 10 or 20 before they even get an opportunity to make an offer or
that's
or
it.
make a bid.
And as a user, you can also download our app, and alongside that, you get instant notifications straight to your phone, as you do with some messenger applications.
Right. Now, I don't want to talk about the actual figures, but if an agent was to say to you, well, I'm okay, I'm on this portal or that portal or whatever, are you ultra competitive in terms of fees? Is there a fee differential between you and the big portals?
Absolutely. We are very much so at the moment, because we are completely free to use product. We want to create that critical mass. We are trying to manage expectations correctly with the new customers that we're onboarding. That within 6 months we'll be introducing a paid-for service. Now, the bulk of the platform will always stay free, but we are offering some premium tools onto the platform that will really help agents build on their stock. As an example, we have a very, very intuitive prospecting tool, which is offered within the premium package, that would give agents alerts to properties that are on the market with their competitors that they can win for those instructions. So it's providing tools that really have a return on their investment, the agents themselves.
Well, that's really good. That's quite refreshing, isn't it? I mean, that's very good. I mean, anything that makes the industry more streamlined and quicker to react to market conditions. And I say the classic being that a lot of people complain, don't they, that by the time they've even picked up the phone to make an appointment to view, that property's gone. And maybe that's people having sort of pre-orders with landlords or whatever, or wanting to finding that the market's so difficult they don't want to move any longer, or things like that. It's quite complex, isn't it? There are a lot of different factors coming into your service that you can actually streamline, and I do quite like that.
Yeah, I mean, what we're ultimately trying to build is a platform that will be the go-to premium property portal, which offers multiple services and tools to agents. Now, I've kind of highlighted the prospecting technology that we offer, but we also want to introduce other key tools which could help agents build on their local presence in order to help them build on and win more stocks.
Would you help them with sort of formatted leases and that kind of thing, do you think?
We don't go into the sales, if that's what you're asking, but we will be introducing certain additional products into the portal, where if you're referring to tenancy creation, referencing, etc. Yes, we see the value in that, especially for the private landlord as well.
I think, again, for the smaller private landlord, legislation is a nightmare. You don't know what's come through, you don't know what's coming, you don't know what your obligations are, especially for the newer landlord. And I think if you can offer a service that just gives them a pointer or steers them even in the right direction to get the right kind of advice, I think that would be extremely useful, and again would play its part in upping the standards of the whole industry.
Absolutely. We're listening to feedback on a daily basis. We're a very agile business, meaning that we can move and adapt to positive feedback and current trends. And as you say, legislation is a key factor to consider, to making sure that everybody is compliant, being the agent or the private landlord themselves.
Okay, well, look, we've heard of some of the nightmares over the last couple of years. I mean, the first one I can think of is the insulation sort of program that the government were going to enforce. You were going to have to insulate your home to a certain standard before you could let it. All of a sudden, after even landlords had sold their portfolios because they knew their properties would never meet those standards, the government just ditched it. And that was after people had sold their portfolios, lost money, invested money in surveyors to get quotations for doing their property. I mean, it's really quite shocking. And I think one of the hardest things for the smaller person is to get the right information, and sometimes they're just sort of lost as to where they go. So if your service can actually help that too as an add-on tool, I think that's tremendous.
Yeah, we're trying our utmost best to add value where it's possible.
Yeah, I think adding value is really the key word today, isn't it? Because life is very complex. It can be quite litigious too. So if you can point people in the right direction at the level they're at, then I think that's very commendable too.
Just going back on your question in terms of kind of value in comparison to our competitors, when we do come in to start being a paid for product, we will be much more palatable in terms of the price point than our competition. I think people view our competitors as a necessary purchase, but one that is probably could be a lot cheaper than it is, and I don't see them kind of lowering their prices anytime soon.
No, I mean to me the real key is how do you match people to get to an efficient service, and as I've said before, running around London or wherever you are trying to rent a property where it's probably already gone, had 20, 30 viewings already. You need to know where you are with these things. People haven't got the time or the money these days to run around on fruitless expeditions, have they? I mean, that's a really key point, I think.
Yeah, I think we like to use the buzzword instant gratification, and that's what we're trying to implement.
I've heard that somewhere else before. I can't remember, but anyway, carry on.
So just providing things as quickly as possible. So essentially that's one of our key USBs, being a speed, fast, orientated portal.
Okay. Well, Anthony, thank you very much for coming in today. Really appreciate it. I have a lot of time for your scheme. I think it's both clever and useful. And not always do you get the two coming together.
Well, thank you very much.
But no, well done for that. And I wish you every success with the platform.
Thank you.
Okay, well, there we are. I'm Stephen Galpin. That was Property Matters. Thank you very much for watching. See you again next time.